Imagine losing your husband, and then imagine what happens the next morning. Who feeds your children? Who protects your home? Who stands beside you when everyone else has gone back to their own lives? This is the question our ancestors faced, and Tero, wife inheritance, was their answer. Not abandonment, not ownership, protection. Welcome back to Echoes of the Luo. Today, we look at why this tradition existed and why, for the world our ancestors lived in, it worked. Tero is the custom of widow being taken into union with a kinsman of a late husband, usually a brother. There was no government support waiting for a widow, no insurance, no safety net beyond the community itself. So the Luo built their own safety net when her husband died. His responsibilities did not die with him. Someone within the clan was expected to carry them forward. In many communities around the world, a widow with no husband and no sons old enough to protect her was left exposed to land grabbing, to poverty, to isolation. Among the Luo, this was not allowed to happen. A widow remained part of the family. Her children remained children of the clan. Tero existed to make sure that death did not mean disappearance. The man who took on this role, the jater, had no choice in the matter. It was his responsibility. He was never allowed to refuse. He provided for the widow, protected the homestead, and carried the late husband's name and lineage forward. And the children were not treated as another man's children. He raised them as his own, fully, completely without distinction. Because among the Luo, family was never just blood, family was responsibility, and responsibility was not optional. Look around today and you will see what our ancestors were trying to prevent. Fathers die, and their children are left with no one standing between them and the world. Mothers remarry outside the clan, and in the new homestead, her children from the first marriage are treated as outsiders, fed last, spoken to last, belonging to no one. This is exactly what Tero was built to stop, not through sentiment, but through obligation, a duty placed on a real person inside the family, but no tradition stands untouched by time. As decades passed, some of the practices attached to Tero, particularly certain cleansing rituals carried out without regard for health, came under serious scrutiny during the HIV and AIDS crisis that hit Nyanza region especially hard. What began as an institution built on protection became, in some hands, corrupted by men who abused the role for their own gain, earning the bitter nickname terrorists, a play on the word Tero itself. Because of this, many Luo families today no longer practice Tero in its traditional form. Some have transformed it into a symbolic gesture of family support rather than a union. Others have set the custom aside altogether. Culture evolves, and it is worth remembering that the abuse of the tradition is not the same as the tradition itself. Wife inheritance is one of the most misunderstood African traditions ever spoken about. To some, it represents oppression. To others, compassion. To many, it remains both a source of pride and a difficult conversation. But we do ourselves a disservice when we reduce centuries of cultural understanding into a single sentence or stereotype. Our ancestors were answering difficult questions. How do we protect widows? How do we preserve families? How do we make sure no child is forgotten? Tero was their answer. Understanding a tradition is not the same as agreeing with it. Sometimes, understanding is where meaningful conversations begin. Wife inheritance is one of the most misunderstood traditions ever spoken about outside our communities. But for the world our ancestors lived in, with no government safety net, no insurance, no institution to call, Tero was not a burden placed on women. It was a wall built around them. It made sure no widow stood alone. It made sure no child of the Luo became an outsider in their own family. This is Echoes of the Luo. Ainya.